Hey everybody, it's Baileywiki, and you're seeing some highlights of what we're going to be doing today. You're seeing some interesting things here. You're seeing some terrains change dynamically. You're seeing the ability to kind of instantly swap things out. You've got a drag and drop capability. We're like dragging tokens into a scene, and we're creating presets out of them automatically. We're just dragging from our desktop. And this is a little bit what we're going to go through today. So if you don't know already, Mass Edit is a module. Baileywiki Mass Edit is a module that we took over, I don't know, over a year ago now. Adaf's the developer, and we've been actively working on it. Well, now that v13 is here, when I say here, it means most of the modules that we rely on are ready and up to date. So we kind of give them the green light for everybody to move over to v13 whenever they're ready. But in addition to that, we've been working on some new features with Mass Edit that are ready for v13. So if you're on v13, or you're thinking about moving to it, or you're just curious what kind of new goodies you'll get when you get there, I'm going to walk you through that today. Now, as usual, if you're not familiar with the channel, I'm Baileywiki. Me and my team, we design maps and map assets. We also do a ton of tutorials around platforms like Foundry and Dungeon Draft. So if you like learning how to do stuff, if you're a tinkerer, feel free to come in and watch the channel, subscribe, hit the subscribe button, super helpful. Comment and like wherever you find it appropriate. Really, really does help the channel. And if you really want to support us and you want to get all the stuff that you see in all of our tutorials, like everything you're going to see today, plus everything we've ever made, you can get it all with 1 month subscription on my Patreon. So feel free to check that out if you're interested. In the meantime, let's jump into what's new with Mass Edit. So let's say I have some files off screen, just in an open Windows folder, a bunch of tiles. If I drag them in and I hold down Shift, it will turn them automatically into tokens in my world. And so now I've got all these tokens. Pretty great. And what happened was, if I double right click this and I go to Appearance, and I go to the image path, you can see that it put it into a new folder called Drag Uploads Canvas Image. Okay, and that's inside of, you notice there's another one called Presets. If I go all the way up to Drag Upload, it's sitting there alongside my World, Systems, and Modules folders now. So Mass Edit now will create this directory, and then we'll put all of your drag and drop assets into there. Okay, now it doesn't just create tokens, you can also do it with tiles. So if it doesn't matter what layer I'm on, if I take the same images and I drag them in the first case, I held down Shift. In this case, I'm going to not hold down anything. I'm just going to drop them into the scene. Give it a chance to load. And they dropped it in now as tiles, right? So I can now manipulate these. If these were like, trees or bushes or something like that, I can now manipulate them. And they're in my world. And this is great if you want to be able to easily add stuff into your world, and you don't have, especially if you have like a hosted world and you don't want to, go through a kind of a backdoor to upload files and things like that. This is where you get lots of files in really quickly. It also works with audio. So if I drag audio in here, it would create audio beacons and it would upload all those audio files to my world as well. Now, it also works with the Mass Edit asset browser. So if you open up the Mass Edit asset browser, you're going to have like things that you've created up here. You're going to have anything of mine or other third parties down below. And as of right now, it works with the tile feature. So I can drag a bunch of tiles in, and I could say, I want to make a single preset out of these versus multiple. So I'll make a single preset, and you can see it gives me right away this multi-preset. And these are all, and if I then go add them to a brush, and I have randomization turned on, let me reset my brush, I can cycle through and see all those different canopies that I just added. Okay, so that's how you make really quickly, take a bunch of assets and dump them in here. That works really well for like weapons. If you've got artwork for like lots of weapons and equipment, you can drag all your swords in here, make it a sword preset, right? It'll take one of them as an example, but you can always change the thumbnail to something else, right? You can grab something else from there. But, we might call this a brush sword, or this will be canopies, right? And now you always have that, and you can easily get to them. So that's drag upload. A couple of things you should know there. You can go set where they go in your configuration settings. So if you go to Baileywiki Mass Edit, and you see drag upload here at the top. You can configure that. You can enable it or disable it if you just don't want to have the drag and drop capability. And then you can also change the destination, right? So I've left it to the default. And then you can also create default templates. So if you want all of your tokens that you create once tokens are working, or tiles or anything else, if you want them to have a certain type of attribute, you can create the preset yourself once, drag it in here, and then it will become the template that all of the tiles will adopt when they come in, right? And then you can delete that and change it to something else. I think you can only have one template per entity type. So just think about that. You might want to make one for your tokens, maybe for your audio. But anyway, just keep in mind that you can change that from there. Now, the other cool thing that we've got is we have the ability to expand brushes or presets, really. So, there's lots of different presets, but a lot of times presets can be like tile sets. You'll know my tile sets because they all say brush, right? So for example, like this insect brush. If I place these on here, it's going to randomize these different like insect cocoons. Okay, so maybe I don't want all those cocoons. Maybe I want to be more selective about it. Well, I can right click that now, any preset, and expand it, and I can see every tile that's inside of it. I can say, ooh, hey, you know what, I really like these. I'm going to add these to a brush. But even more than that, I can select multiple things. Like maybe I want to open up all of these. So let's expand all of these brushes. And I say, oh, you know what, I like this. Let's add those to a brush. And we've already, let's see, grab these two. And maybe we grab these couple. And we're adding everything to this brush down here. And now when we place things, we're only placing the items that we'd selected. So it's good for lots of things. I mentioned swords earlier, right? Well, maybe let's do a search for brush. Let's just do weapon, actually. And we're finding all these brushes for weapons. So let's grab a couple of these. And let's expand these out. And you can see there's just tons of assets under all of these brushes. So maybe we want to be selective and we just want like axes that are kind of standing up and at this kind of perspective. And maybe we want a couple of these swords. All right, so we've got our brush. And then maybe we come into our map and we try to brush them in. Let's go to this map here. This is a manor, right? This came out today with the release. It's got a basement, multiple stories. And let's say in the, I don't know, in the middle story here, in the master bedroom, we want to place something. Like maybe we'll put an axe over here in the corner. And we'll put a sword right there on top of that dresser or whatever that is. Now, the other great thing about this expand menu is anything in it will inherit the attributes of the preset. So for example, let's say I want to put tree canopies in, and these are actually colored. So I'll expand these out, and you can see originally they're red in tint. They're using the token magic effects filter to color them different shades of green. So if I add those to a brush and I start putting it in a scene, it's doing a couple of things. First of all, it's using the keeping the color, right? So it's randomizing the color like it's supposed to, like the brush is supposed to. And it's also putting the TMFX drop shadow in there, right, automatically. And it's also making them overhead tiles. So that's how, okay, here you go, elevation 10 feet. So it's also making them overhead tiles. And that's because that's how the brush was set up. So it's really convenient to just be more selective about what you're brushing into a scene. And so that's how you can use this stuff in this new expanding of presets to be able to get just the right thing that you want. So go check that out. You can do it with all kinds of things. If you just search for brush in my library, you can see there's like over 100 different kinds of brushes, and each of those have potentially hundreds of assets underneath them, the clothing and all kinds of food and equipment, treasure. So I think you guys will get a lot of mileage out of that. Now, before I move on, just to talk about a third-party module that's really helpful So, we've got like working boats, right? So if we want to drag one of these boats out to the scene, it's got a little sticky region on it. It works great. If you want to give your players the ability to move these things themselves, so right now as a GM, I can move it, but if you want your players to be able to move it, you can do that. You need a third-party module also by Adif called Move That For You. And Move That For You is now working in v13. So if you've been experimenting with it and you couldn't get it working, Adif confirmed it's now working. So you can have your players build a whole city and be able to move buildings like this around. You can have them, just move a vehicle that they're on, like a boat or a wagon. So just keep in mind that that works now too. So the next thing I want to show you is what's going on, what's new with terrain spawners. So if you're familiar with my content, I have a tile type called a spawner, right? And these are all different kinds of spawners. And historically, you've had to just drop them in and then kind of go to the file. If you want to change them, go to the file system, and there's a macro that lets you kind of adjust them. Well, we made that a completely new and easy experience now with v13. So let's say really any spawner I want to drop in. Let's start with caves. I'll drop in a cave spawner. The first thing it does is it basically creates this tile, and then it fills the scene with that tile, and then that tile has an overlay image applied to it. It actually is powered by token magic effects. Now, when I dropped it in, it opened up this special window. And what this window does, because all of these terrain spawners are tileable, it means they're infinitely tileable. So if I zoom out all the way, you can start to see where the pattern repeats. But for your purposes, you can drop it in and you can adjust it and move it really easily now with this. And then you get all this other control. So you have all these like minimum, maximum settings for its translation, up, down, left, or right. You've got zoom, and then you've got rotation. And you can adjust all of these and you can like randomize it. So let's say you've got the right zoom that you want. You want to randomize exactly which part of the map you're zoomed in on. Just keep hitting this button and you'll just keep getting a new map. Because you're just looking at a slice of a much larger map, it's really kind of gives you unlimited ability to create a new cave map, for example. I can also do the same thing with zoom. This will just zoom in at different levels and let me try it out. Maybe I want to experiment or I want to constrict this. Let's say I only want it to be 150 to 200%. And I hit randomize, and you can see it just barely moves within that range. And then I can also do the same thing with rotation. Okay. Now, if I randomize all, it'll follow all of these constraints and it'll randomize all rotation, zoom, and pan. And that's what really gives you the ability to get just random maps. You get a random map that you like. Maybe you want to adjust it. Maybe I want to zoom in on this one a little bit. Maybe I like this little ledge here and I want to get more of that in the shot. And now all of a sudden I've got a completely usable battle map, all just using one tile. But wait, it gets better. If I go to change image, I can click that and I can say, hey, you know what? Maybe I want to try a mine. And all of a sudden I've got a mine track running through. And I can do the same thing here. Whoops. I can do the same thing and randomize everything and get an idea of a part of the mine that I want to be in. So when you click this, this has all of my library of tileable streets and everything else, right? So if I want to make a city, it's like this. And all of a sudden I've got some streets and I can put, a couple of buildings down. Let's do a facade. Let's do this like nice elvish facade, right? So we put a building down here and we can start building a city, right? Got some really cool, what I call gray harbor facades. So these are like really rough buildings. So let's grab some of these, add them to a brush, and then we can start to add these presets around. Right? Okay, that's pretty good. I've got the beginnings of a city. Just kind of cover the artwork where you want to. You can really just build anything in any way that you want. It's pretty satisfying. So I've got all my buildings set up. But let's say, you know what? I think those streets are too clean. So let's go to change this image. And let's grab this version of it. Now all of a sudden I've got completely different streets. Right now I've got this like village, and maybe I want to adjust it a little bit. And you can just see like, you can place your houses where the streets are, but it's just, I love it. It's just a very organic kind of process. And like pretty quickly I've got this village that I'm ready to rock and roll with. And one more thing before I forget, one really cool thing you can do with the terrain spawner is you can actually use your own terrains. If you have your own tileable terrains that you want to make maps out of, you can use those. So you can just use the macro that I've created or make a copy of it if you'd like to. And this is these are the directories where all of my unlimited terrains are, but you can just add more. You can see you just uh, give it a path, put it in the single quotes, make sure you put the little um, wildcard star at the end of it. That'll capture anything within a folder, or otherwise you can just give the direct path. And just set it up in the same way, and you can add your own textures to this, or make your very own. Now I'll just show you from the release that came out today. Let's look for the Gray Harbor docs. Let's grab this one. And this is going to give me all these random views of this dock, right? And so I'm going to adjust this. I kind of like this one. What I want to do is make like one of the sides of the dock kind of line up, and I'll make it aligned here because I'm going to actually put a building in here as well. I'm going to zoom a bit. It's pretty good. You can see the scale of my players down here below. And yeah, I think this is good, right? So then I could just do that. I can put in a there's a boathouse that came in with this release. Let's drag that over here. Let's flip it around. And let's set it right about here. Now, for now, we're going to change this so you can just double click it and adjust this. For now, what you want to do is look in nuts and bolts macro compendium and bring in this one that's called temporary. What that does is if you have a tile selected that's got unlimited terrain on it, you can just hit that and it'll bring up that interface that you saw before. Eventually, we're going to have it so you just double click and it opens this up. But because we have to toggle between v12 and v13 in terms of support, I can't quite offer it yet. So now we've got this and we can do our adjustments. Right, that's about where I want it. But I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Yeah, I think that's better for my purposes. Okay, so what did we just do? Well, we just made a dock house right where there wasn't one. Okay, so now my players are in here. It's got some of these like working gates for the dock house. These boats work. But, you know, that's it. I've got a pretty great map kind of instantly. You know, you leave the dock house, you can have battles out here. You can have a ship parked outside. Or a kraken or something that they're getting ready to fight. So that's how you use this stuff and how you make maps super quickly. Now there's another way to make maps really quickly. So we've got another blank scene here. We've got a smaller one this time. And another new feature of Mass Edit is when you go into the scene config. Well, here, let me show you this first. So let's drop in a diorama tile. Let's just pick any one. Okay, this is good. I'm going to select it, hit Shift D, and I'm going to resize it so you know it's about the size of the scene. Of course, it's bigger than the scene, right? If I select one of my players, I can see this is what they're going to see, right? They're going to see this diorama tile constrained within the scene. Now, if I want to, I can do this. I can go up to the scene config, and at the bottom, I can enable black bars. And black bars will put that frame around the scene. So I can use diorama tiles and other things that might bleed out on the edge, but it shows me exactly what the players are going to see. And you might find that's kind of delightful to do. It's like a nice way to design. I'm going to change the background color to all black, and that's going to make it so it's all black around there. Okay, so what can I do now? I've got this great scene. I can certainly battle in it. Maybe I can put down some mud golems or add some muddy skeletons or other things that came out with that release. But if I double right click it, I can select any of these things. I'll select all these. And by the way, inside of each one of these is like hundreds of other images, right? So these just represent, if you hover over them, grassy clearing, they just represent biomes and ground types that you can use. But because there's like literally hundreds of those, you might want to give yourself a little serendipity. And look, I've selected all of them, held down Shift, by the way, to select all of those, and I can just close this window. Now, if I double left click this, it will literally cycle through thousands of options. And just in seconds, I've got, here I've got the side of a lake. This probably isn't going to work. It's a forest. But here's a nice clearing. Here's a cave with a clearing. Here's, some desolate ground, snow. And it just goes on forever. And you can, again, double left click it and get rid of some of these. Like maybe you don't want any of the forests, for example. Maybe we don't want any of the snowy stuff. And maybe none of that. There we go. And now you're just coming up with random battle maps. Of course, you can select just one genre and just randomize through that. Now, you'll notice that some of these are smaller than the area. So we can just grab it, hit Shift D, expand it out a little bit, right? And now it fills in the area. So that's just something that you can do that's super easy. I'm going to create, once we're fully on v13, a map that just has all this randomization just built into it. So you can just open it up and say, I just want a random battle map, and you'll be able to generate them this way. Another notable thing is how we're handling tags. Let's copy this to our working compendium. Bring that up here. Now this is in our local compendium. We can make edits and make this our own. If I go to edit and tags, I can see all the tags now in one line. If I want to get rid of them, I can just delete the tags, right? And if I want to add more, you just add more tags there. It's just a better way. This is something that Foundry enabled in their version 13 update. So tags just have a better way of managing them. And the last thing that's notable that you should know about, if you go into the configure settings, if you go into Baileywiki Mass edit, at the very bottom, you can now hide your preset compendium. So I'm going to uncheck that. This is, I think by default, it's unchecked. I'm actually not sure. But if I go into my compendiums then, or I just go into Baileywiki content, prefabs, and scenes, I get lots of compendiums, right? But a lot of these are for prefabs. And so we said, you know what, those are not really necessary as long as you're using Mass Edit. That's really the interface that you want to use. So if I go then back into my settings and I tick that box, let's go back to our compendiums. Now, if I open up prefabs, there's nothing in there. So it just gets rid of a ton of clutter. You can see it got rid of just lots of clutter in your compendiums that you really didn't need to mess, to clutter your compendiums up with. So you might want to make sure that's ticked on if you're using my stuff. And other than that, v13 Mass Edit actually had a complete rework from the bottom up. So there's a ton of cleanup work that was done, bug fixes, stuff like that. What it also means is there's probably some bugs somewhere that once we start testing with lots of users, they'll start to come out. So if you do find bugs, just come to my Discord. We have either a troubleshooting or bug reporting channel. Use the bug reporting channel if you can, and let us know what we can fix. And that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the changes, or I hope you enjoyed the changes with Mass Edit. And definitely come back and let me know if you see any opportunities to improve it. And of course, come check out the latest release this month. And otherwise, thanks everybody for supporting the channel, and have fun making maps.